Hi guys, Carl W Design, and this will be my second video of the day. Hopefully a very quick one. I want to show you how you can make this sort of thing using Eevee. Do you know what? I'll try to do a proper full render of this, and in fact I might render it in cycles because I'm not 100% sure how this motion blur works in Eevee. But for a little motion graphics thing like this, you really want to have some nice, beautiful looking motion blur, and I can't get it to work in this beta. I'm on the Blender 2.8 beta. Okay, so very quickly, let's see how to make this thing. I'm not using any particularly special techniques, so it should be nice and easy. Let's get started in a new file. I'm going to delete the box. I will make a curve circle. And I like to work from the front viewport, so RX90 going in, and I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it. Okay, let's go to the front viewport and Shift D to duplicate, S to scale. Just going to do this by eye. I'm going to go down by about that much. Shift D and S and down by a similar amount. And perhaps I will make all of these a little bigger, to be honest. And then the last one, Shift D, S, and a similar amount. Okay, you could do 5, 6, 7, whatever you want to do. Okay, let's talk about the actual mesh. So Shift A, make a new mesh, and I'm going to make a circle. Again, I'm going to go into edit mode with tab, and RX90 will turn that thing on its side. F to make a face. You know what? Let's start again. I'm going to do a circle, and this time I'm going to make it a little bit heavier. We'll go with 64 vertices. That'll just make it look a little bit neater. So into edit mode, RX90, F to make a face, and that's looking a lot better. I'm going to scale it right down to something like that. And now, how to make this circle go on the circle curves that we've created. So it's nice and easy actually. We just go to modifiers. I'm going to first add an array, and for the relative offset, let's do something like 0.1. It will look a little better in the end if you do an even smaller amount. So what's happening is it's made a copy of the circle just next to its original one. It's actually an instance, okay? It's a little bit different. So if we up the count here, you can see what it's doing. It's creating a line of circles. So again, if you make the offset smaller, it'll be a little bit cleaner where they connect, but you'll have to make many, many instances to make a longer line. So this will work just fine. And the other modifier we want is the curve modifier. Now if I go to this eyedropper and just pick the curve, then it's going to go like that. Okay, so we can up the count, and you can see what it's doing. Now, it's got a bit of a funny effect here where it's not a very nice edge, and that is, I think, related to the scale. If I were to scale this up, I think I'll have to go into edit mode. Yeah, and you can see it's got a much nicer edge if these are bigger. So you're going to want to play around with your scale. I seem to have gotten off to a bit of a bad start here. But anyway, just to finish the tutorial, so how to make the rest of these things, you can Shift D on the actual mesh geometry, and I'm just going to right click so it goes right back where it was. It's sitting exactly on top of the original. Down here in the curve modifier, going to X out that, and then I drop the other one. Okay, so Shift D, right click, X, and eyedropper. Shift D, right click, X, eyedropper. Okay, now we've got all of them. The parameters that you want to animate are the count. Okay, and you can see that looks quite nice. So using larger scale is obviously going to work out better. So the count you can animate, right click, insert keyframes, and you can also animate. If I push GX, then we can spin these things around. Okay, very quickly to talk about the shading, or to go into the shading tab. if I change to a rendered view, that's Z on the keyboard, I have a very simple world set up, so that is just a black world. I'm going to make it sort of a dark gray. And then as for the objects, let's click on one of these objects and I will give it a material. If you've seen my other tutorials, you'll know that I have these materials configured in my Blender startup file, and so they're very simple to make. It's just this configuration. So an emission shader goes into the bottom of a mix shader, or a mix shader, and then a light path node goes into the factor, and we're using is camera ray. And so whatever color I choose for the emission, that will render. Okay, and again, that relies on color management under the render tab. We want our color management to be on view transform default and look base contrast. By default, Blender will give you the filmic, and possibly, I'm not sure, it might give you medium contrast or something. You can see how that affects our result a little bit. It's not a big deal. You could leave it on filmic if you want. And so let's just quickly put it on default and base contrast. Okay, back to normal. And so we can put different colors on these different objects. Orange, whatever. Okay, and so you animate the GX, so the translation along the X-axis will make these spin around their circles. You could get creative and animate on the Z and do this sort of thing. That might be fun. Or GY will do this. That could be interesting, to have them come flying at the camera. If you're going to be getting in close and looking at them sort of close up, then you'll notice the resolution is not excellent on the curves. So if I go back to one of the curves, you're going to want to go to the object data panel here, and then for the resolution go to something like 32. I'll quickly do that for all of them, and you'll see it makes a little bit of a difference. So 32, we'll go back in here, and this time if I G on the Y, when it gets closer, you can see that's a little bit nicer around the edges. If you want it to be especially nice, up the count on the array and down the what's it called, the relative offset. Make that go down and the count go up. That'll push the circles in closer to each other. And yeah, that's about it. Experiment with fun colors and animation, timing, make these things spin around. You can make them expand like this. You can you could use particles. You could start to get into bloom. And I really think for something like this, you're going to want some motion blur. Well, as I said, it doesn't seem to work in Eevee, so possibly use cycles and motion blur. There's any number of awesome things you can do with this. Let's just quickly put some colors on these. I'll go for something horrific and arbitrary, like this. And there you can see, I mean, this is just a very quick example, but you can make awesome stuff like this. You can also make these curves be arbitrary Bezier curves. You could make, you could turn text into curves by using object convert to, okay, you can actually make text into curves and then use this technique. Okay, there's any number of things you can do. I think I'm just about done here. You guys can make awesome stuff and post it. I want to see. Leave a comment if you like the video. Thank you very much, guys. Until next time, bye bye.